Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Zed and welcome to this video. This is last week I watched number 10, and last week was a pretty short week of movies. I'm not gonna lie, this past week and a half, 2 weeks, I have not been feeling like myself. I have just been in a different headspace, so I didn't get to that much this week. I had planned on having kind of a Netflix week, actually. One night, I believe on like Friday or Saturday of this, 2 weeks ago, I went through Netflix and I found a bunch of movies that I wanted to watch. And I think out of all those movies, probably 6 or 7, I watched 3 of them. But I did watch some other stuff mixed in. So without any further ado, let's get started with The Stranger. So I'm familiar with Orson Welles. I'm familiar with Citizen Kane, War of the Worlds, that sort of thing. To be honest, I can't even tell you if I've ever seen him act in a full movie. I've watched bits and pieces of Citizen Kane. And like I've said in the past, I enjoyed it, but I never finished it. It wasn't because I didn't like it or that I wasn't, intrigued by it or interested in it. I just never got around to finishing it. But this is the first time that I actually finished an Orson Welles movie, which he also starred in, and it was pretty good. I actually really enjoyed it. I think, like a lot of other people before me have said, Orson Welles was so ahead of his time when it came to the way he shot movies, the way he edited them, the way he lighted them, the way he, the different shots and angles he used. He was so ahead of his time. I believe this movie came out in 1946, and if you told me this movie came out in the 60s, I'd believe you. And his acting ability was so good, like leaps and bounds. Like, he was the best person in the cast, the best actor in the cast. If you don't know what The Stranger is, it's basically about this investigator, this war crimes investigator, is trying to track down this very infamous Nazi that has traveled to the States and is hiding out. And that's Orson Welles' character. He's a very infamous Nazi who did a lot of bad things, and this war crime investigator, is trying to bring him to justice. It's a very well put together movie, very interesting, a lot of great dialogue. I think what shines in this movie is just the way Orson Welles shot it, and that's why I gave The Stranger 3.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyable. And then next up, I watched Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry is a movie I hear a lot about. Obviously, do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do ya? Like, that's a very famous line in popular culture. I know that it's from this movie. What I did not know, as I get cat hair in my mouth, what I did not know was this movie, Dirty Harry, is in a franchise of movies. There's like 5 or 6 Dirty Harry movies. That I did not know. Dirty Harry was enjoyable. I did like it. I think the only thing about the movie that I overall and was just kind of indifferent with was its runtime. I felt like there's plenty of scenes that could have been cut for time. That they did explain, hey, I'm gonna need you to stop doing that. They did explain, hey, she's knocking over all my movies over here. Stop rubbing your face against them. They did explain, certain plot lines where characters were at in the story, but I felt like there was just a little too much, dead space. Like there's just too much of it for my liking. But I did like Harry. No, now she's trying to jump on my table. I did like Harry, but what I really like is I really liked the villain of the story, who was the like serial killer, rapist, kidnapper guy. He was very, very creepy. He definitely, for the rest of the evening, made me second guess walking into the dark. And so I really liked him. I thought he was the best part of the movie. Very creepy. But overall, like I said, the runtime is what kind of got me. It's not a long movie by any means, but I felt like the plot was stretched out a little bit too much, and they really could have condensed it down and made an even better movie. So Dirty Harry, I gave, again, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Hey, okay, my cat is like making my life hell right now. She is now rubbing herself up against the table. Hey, come on. She just wants attention. Next up on Netflix, this is actually not one of my Netflix picks. The other two were. I watched The Invention of Lying. And I have to admit, right after I got done watching this movie, I immediately called up my mom and was like, hey, I have the perfect movie for you. I think you'll really enjoy it. She's a big fan of Ricky Gervais. She's a big fan of those kind of like Twilight Zone, Black Mirror type scenarios, as I am too. The Invention of Lying is basically about what if the human race evolved with the inability to lie, and what happens when the first lie is told, and how that changes this man's life forever when he finds out he has the ability to lie, and he is the only person with that ability. You can basically get whatever you want. There's a scene in this movie that really shows that kind of shows the power he has, and it's basically the first thing he does with his power. He walks into a bank and he's trying to withdraw his money, but the system computers are down in the bank. So the woman asks him, how much do you have in your account? And in a world where you cannot lie, where no one has ever told a lie, you could tell them any number and they would give it to you. So he told them, I have $800 in the bank. He's trying to pay his rent. And the woman's like, oh, the systems are back online. And she's about to find out that he only has $300. And she sees, oh, sir, it says you only have $300 in your account. There must be a system error, sir. I'm sorry, I'll get your money. And she just hands him $800 because he should be trustworthy, you know? So it's a very cool concept, and it basically, this movie breeds, I think I said it best in my review. This movie is an interesting look into religion, relationships, observations, social constructs, reality, media, and the truth. It's a very, because in this movie, Ricky Gervais's character, basically invents religion to comfort his dying mother. Invents heaven and hell and whatever. He doesn't call them these things, but it's a very interesting movie. It's a comedy, of course. It's a Ricky Gervais movie. It's very dry humor. I found myself chuckling and laughing throughout. Just overall, I know it's a movie that's gotten poor reviews, but I think it's worth watching. And I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And actually, my buddy watched it right after me. He read my review and he found it interesting, so he went and watched it, and he also enjoyed it too. And then another Netflix pick, I watched Hamburger Hill. So Hamburger Hill is a Vietnam War movie, and I really enjoy war movies. I enjoy the camaraderie. Honestly, I enjoy all of, you know, the sceneries of war. I think they're very interesting. As a kid who, while in school, was really into history, really into learning about all the different wars. It's devastating to watch, especially when it's a very well done depiction like Hamburger Hill. But basically, it's about a group of this what do you call it, a battalion, this one group of soldiers who is trying to take this hill, and over a couple grueling days they lose a lot of their men. And I guess the thing that I can equate the name to, what not equate, the thing that I can, the best way I can describe the title of the movie by what happens in the movie is people are basically turned into hamburger meat. It's very gory, very gruesome, very hard to watch. But it is a very well done depiction of the Vietnam War. Things are said, things are done that you will not like, that you will not feel comfortable with, but that's war. So I gave Hamburger Hill 5 out of 5 stars. I definitely teared up, and I definitely cried at the end. There's a very powerful scene at the end that really choked me up. And by far, also Don Cheadle's in this movie. He's the only person that I could recognize in this movie. In retrospect, going through and looking at the cast, there are other people I recognize as they got older. Like I recognized them, in their 50s, 60s, but I just didn't recognize them as 30-year-old guys. But the one character that stood out the most to me was Doc. Doc was the best character in this movie. I really liked him. And then next up, I watched my favorite found footage film, Cloverfield. So in Cloverfield, there is a party being held for a friend who is about to leave the country to start a new job. And during this party, a creature appears in the middle of Manhattan and starts destroying it. And it's basically this group of friends trying to make it out of the city while it's being destroyed. Found footage films, to me, I think they're so underrated. I feel like a lot of people think they're a cheap way of putting together. It's a cheap alternative to a big budget movie, and I have to disagree, because this movie is a big budget movie, or at least they made it look like a big budget movie. I love the monster. I'm a big fan of kaiju movies. The legendary picture, MonsterVerse with Godzilla, Kong, etc., etc. Big fan of those guys. I just love giant monster movies, Pacific Rim. And this one, like, I love found footage. Earth to Echo, Chronicle, Project Almanac, all these found footage films, I really enjoy them. Oh, and even, you could even consider District 9 a found footage film, though it's kind of back and forth from found footage to regular, but like Cloverfield is a really great movie. The only thing that I in the past gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but in retrospect, watching this movie again, I think my biggest fault with it is its dialogue. Its dialogue can be very cliche, very, where are you going, Jason? Jason, where's, or Eric, where is Jason going? Jason, you can't go over there. It's just very clunky dialogue, but overall, it's a very compelling story. I really enjoyed Cloverfield, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then this movie means a lot to me, or watching this movie meant a lot to me. Identity Thief. So I've seen this movie a number of times, but as of recently, now that we're all in quarantine, my grandparents are running out of things to watch. So I told them, hey, I can hook up my old Blu-ray player to the TV upstairs, and you guys can watch Netflix, YouTube, and you can borrow any movie in my collection to watch. So I hooked it up for them, got that all sorted, and they came downstairs and they were looking through movies, and I picked out a couple for them that I thought they would like, and one of the movies was this, and they love Melissa McCarthy. So I ended up popping it in for them, and then I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and watch a movie with my grandparents. I haven't watched a movie with them for a number of years because I'm not a big fan of Hallmark movies. That's what a majority of what they watch. So we sat down and we watched Identity Thief, and we had a fucking good time watching their reactions and to certain things on screen. There, there's so much stuff in here that a lot of people might not be comfortable watching with their grandparents, but there's like a sex scene in this movie. Oh my god. When Melissa McCarthy is boning Cameron from Modern Family, we were laughing hysterically. So, there was no tension during the sex scenes or anything. We were just sitting there laughing. Identity Thief, it's a really good time. I really enjoyed it, especially watching it with my grandparents this time around. 4 out of 5 stars. I'm also big fan of Jason Bateman. Big fan of Jason Bateman. And then lastly, the final movie of this week, I watched Push. So Push is a movie I've had in my collection for a while now. I picked it up more or less for the slipcover. It was at like a Goodwill, and I was like, oh, cool slipcover, I like that, it looks interesting. Chris Evans, Dakota Fanning, Camilla Bell, and Digimon, wow, yeah, the guy he's in Guardians of the Galaxy. He plays the Wizard Shazam, and he's also in Aquaman. I'll put his name up and everything right here, but he's in this movie, and honestly, I had never seen him in a movie before Guardians of the Galaxy. Listen, I didn't think so. So I thought that was kind of like one of his first movies. This guy has never aged. He has never aged once. He looks the exact same. But basically this movie, the best way I can explain it, it's one of those like late 2000s superhero movies that aren't based off of any type of comic book or graphic novel. Basically, Chris Evans' character is a telekinetic. I can't remember exactly what each of the abilities are called. Like each person with an ability has like a certain name. But he's basically a telekinetic. Dakota Fanning's character is basically, she can see into the future. So, and then this girl's character, Camilla Bell, she has a similar power to Dakota Fanning, but she can basically take control of anybody. So she can like look at you and say, we know each other, and then immediately you'll be filled with like memories that you've had with this person that you never met before. It's a good movie. It's an enjoyable movie. There's 2 scenes that stick out to me. There's a scene inside of an Asian market. This movie takes place in Hong Kong, and they're in an Asian market, and Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning's characters are being hunted down by this mafia organization, and these 2 twin brothers who have this sonic screech start yelling in this market, and in all of these fish are exploding. The tanks are cracking. Water's flooding the market. It's a really cool scene. And then there's another scene where Chris Evans' character, a telekinetic, is facing off against another telekinetic in a gunfight, but they're basically hiding behind different beams in this building, and these guns are like floating around, and they're having this gunfight with their abilities. So that's really cool. Sorry, there's like a hair on my glasses and it's bothering me. It's an interesting movie. I enjoyed it. I was never bored of it. I don't think the runtime had any issues. I don't think any of the mythology of the world was any problem at all. I think the worst part about watching this movie is when you get to the end and you are left on a cliffhanger. Ah, shit! because I mean, this movie came out in like 2009. This movie's not going to get, a sequel. It didn't do very well in the box office. Critically, it didn't do very well. So you're left on this cliffhanger, and it's just like, fuck. I think I wrote it in my review. The exact words I said when it ended, like there's this really like pivotal scene that happens, and you're like, holy shit. And then the movie goes to credits, and I said audibly, ah, shit! Because I was like interested on where the movie was gonna go after that, but unfortunately, I'll never know. So while Tony Stark was suiting up for the first time, Steve Rogers was getting his shit kicked in Hong Kong. But anyways, guys, that's it. I gave Push 3 stars, but that's what I'm gonna call it. That's what I watched last week. So thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed me rambling for 20 minutes. And until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you later. Peace.